is Mandy Cartwright from the North Wales Amphibian and Reptile Conservation Trust. Mandy manages the reserves and projects are dedicated to conserving amphibians, reptiles and their disappearing habitats. Today, Mandy will be presenting on the topic of water management for people and amphibians. Mandy.
Hello, so I'm Mandy Cartwright. I work for Amphibian Reptile Conservation Trust. I'm the Senior North Wales Officer and I've worked for ARC for about 10 years now. So people that don't know ARC, we're a national charity that is committed to conserving amphibian and reptiles and their disappearing habitats. So we are a national charity. There's about 45 of us in total, and the hub of the organisation is down in Dorset, but there's people like myself spread out throughout the country doing the good work. So people that don't know much about amphibians, we have 7 in the country, 6 locally. So we have 3 newts, the great crested newt, the palmate newt and the smooth newt, 2 frogs, common frog, pool frog. So we don't have pool frogs around here, they're located all the way down in Dorset. And 2 toads, the natterjack toad and the common toad. So hopefully most of you have come into contact with them. If not, give us a shout and I'll take you out and show you them. So to learn a little bit more about amphibians and their association with water bodies, we need to kind of learn a little bit about what amphibians need. So amphibians comes from a word called amphibious, which means, it's a Greek word, mean living 2 lives. So they live both in water and in terrestrial habitat as well. And they need these 2 habitats to actually exist. If we didn't have these 2 habitats, we wouldn't have amphibians. So they disperse on land, go into the water bodies to breed each year, and at the moment this is happening quite rapidly at the moment. So if you're out and about at night or driving on roads, you'll probably see a lot of amphibians moving towards the water bodies at the moment. It's a little bit early for some of them, but with the mild winters and the wet evenings we're getting, it's happening quite quickly at the moment. The distance they travel, so the small animals, they've got short legs, they don't travel that far, so the distance they travel is not far, so we need to have those good intervening habitats between water bodies and their terrestrial grounds as well. So they ideally don't want to kind of move 250 metres away from their water body, but they will travel a little bit further if they need to, and common toads will do that a bit better than the other species. They will colonise new areas, so this is something I particularly focus on, is we have a good kind of population of amphibians and what's happening around those areas. Can we install new habitats, can we put new water bodies in for them and create a better genetically robust metapopulation? So the terrestrial phase looks a little bit like this. They will go through wide areas of habitat from rough grassland, hedgerows, boggy areas. So with them being amphibians, they do have quite sensitive skin, so they do need to have moisture in areas as well, especially during the hot summers. You will see them moving into more boggy areas as well, or even actually going back to their ponds. So they do need a good terrestrial habitat around their water bodies. So we talk about water bodies. There's been a lot of talk about water this morning. I've listed a variety of water bodies on here, but I've highlighted ponds. Ponds are where you're going to most likely find amphibians in this country. So what are ponds? Ponds can be anything from 1 square metre to up to about 2 hectares. And despite their size, they are absolutely fantastic. They hold so much biodiversity in them, so much more than rivers and lakes. They are jam-packed with aquatic invertebrates, plant species and of course the amphibians. And going back many years, there's a lot of evidence over millions of years that they have existed for years, and plants and animals have adapted to be able to survive in ponds. And ponds support 2/3 of the freshwater species. And there's 2 photographs at the bottom here, aerial photographs of 2 of the sites I manage, and these are prescriptively managed for amphibians, so there's a lot of effort that goes into the sites that we manage, and you can see there's lots of water bodies, lots of really good habitat, and the amphibians are thriving on these sites. But unfortunately, as everything, there are threats to amphibians and their water bodies, and it's not something that's happening now. It's been happening quite rapidly over quite a few number of years. The main one is habitat loss and fragmentation. especially the loss of breeding ponds. So if you look at farmlands about 70, 80 years ago, there'd be a lot of ponds more or less on all the farmers' land they own. A lot of those have been infilled quite at the moment. If you're driving through the country after all the rain we've had, you'll see where the water is sitting in the fields. I call those ghost ponds. Those were where ponds used to be. And they're quite easily established. You can dig a pond in those areas and re-establish these ponds. And these are projects that are happening across the country as well. Another one is traffic. So as urbanisation's grown, lots of roads, there's a lot of amphibians crossing the roads and getting squashed. You may see this happening at the moment. If you're walking on the pavements, you'll see amphibians that have been squashed on the roads. I was talking to some students before. They've been going out doing their toad patrols over in northwest Wales, and the goodwill of the people like this going across and picking amphibians up, putting it in a bucket, walking across the road, putting it to the side they want to go and helping them along their way. This is causing significant dents in the populations of amphibians. Entrapment drains, so the gully pots along the roads, they'll drop into those, they get stuck, they can't get back out. Those have been highly detrimental to them. Pollution, so amphibians have got permeable skins and they're highly susceptible to pollution. That's another, and it affects them in all different kinds of ways to abnormalities. Frog species only given birth to one species, so there's lots of research going into this at the moment, but it's not good for them. Climate change, quite a significant topic at the moment. We've been witnessing over the last 5 years in particular really different changes in water bodies, so they're drying up before any metamorphosis can take place, and over a long period of time that will have a huge detrimental effect on these populations. I've highlighted non-native species and diseases. I'll come to that in a little minute, but another few other things is predation and appropriate land management. Fish in ponds, we don't like fish in newt ponds. I know some of the guys that spoke today that love fish. Fish in their right habitats are great, but not in my newt ponds. So we do have to remove these if they turn up. So I mentioned invasive species and diseases. What do we do? This is a biosecurity kit. This is something that lives in my van all year round. So there's lots of invasive species. There's also diseases called chytrid and ranavirus, which is in our UK populations. And to make sure that we don't spread this to pond, we clean our equipment, whether it's tools in the habitat season or our boots in the monitoring season. And it looks a little bit like this. It's fairly cheaply to put together, disinfectant, making sure nothing's left on our boots when we move from water body to water body, so we're not transmitting any nasty diseases or invasive species to other water bodies that I may visit. I have 70 ponds that I manage under my portfolio, so I have to be really careful that I don't take anything from one pond to another. So basically this is my job, managing, enhancing and monitoring amphibian habitats. This is what I do all year round. I have done for about 15 years in various roles I've worked in. And in short, this is what I do. In late August, September, we have the meadow cuts done on our sites. So I manage about 12 nature reserves, which are primarily for great crested newts, and these are the prescription management programs I have. So we have meadow cuts going in, but we still keep them to about a 10 centimetre sward height, so amphibians are still running around, feeding up in their terrestrial ground because they've moved out of the waters. November to February is when we go into the ponds and we manage the ponds. So this could be removing aquatic vegetation or trees, restoring ponds if they've over-succeeded, etc. And then March, April and May is our survey season, which is fastly coming upon us, where it looks a little bit like that, where we go out at night with high-powered torches and we look into the ponds and we count the amphibians and we collect information for our population trends. So I manage about 7 to 12 sites. This is one of them. This is a site I like to talk about a lot. It's called the White Lion Nature Reserve. This is a compensation site from a housing development, and it's what I call a brand new nature reserve created. So this was the plan, the ecological plan at the development stage. So great crested newts were found in the main pond, and because great crested newts were found here, nature reserve was created, so it was mitigated and compensated for the housing development, which is fantastic because they were found in low numbers, but this was an opportunity to put habitat features in, more water bodies in, to increase the amphibian species on site. So 2014 was when we were handed the site over, and it was a brand new nature reserve, so you can see the photographs here, brand new pond, the builders were still on site building houses, and this is what it looks 10 years on. So all that's gone, the habitats have matured. I mean, we manage it for amphibians, but there's so many other things there. The amount of birds we have visiting, there's snipe on there, all the aquatic invertebrates in the pond. So the amphibians that create that umbrella, but everything else comes in and survives on here as well. And here's some more photographs. You can see the houses and the newt fencing still in, where we've got hedgerows now and everything's matured. It was also awarded a flagship pond in 2017 by Freshwater Habitats Trust, and this was for a rare mud snail, which was found in the main pond. So whenever things like this come up, I get in touch with COFNOD, who are here today. And you can see there's not many mud snails actually around. So it's a really, really good site, and it was an award for it. Another award they had, Redrow, thought we've done really well. We've created this site, we've handed over it to NGO for long-term management and monitoring, and they also received an award for Project of the Year for an up to 5 hectare site. But what I really like is data, as COFNOD will know. So you can see from the data here, we started monitoring in 2015, and we were only finding great crested newts in the main pond, but you can see the trends going up. They're in all the ponds now, which is fantastic. And another thing that we see develop is the aquatic invertebrates in the ponds as well. So this site's got water scorpions, water stick insects, which is a good indicator of good water quality. This is a few other things. I'm rushing now because I'm out of time. But we do lots of pond creations on various sites. So we're always increasing the water bodies on our sites for amphibians and a wide variety of other species. So it's quite a technical process. I do like, this is my favourite part of the job. Pond restoration, so this pond fully succeeded. This was Glyndŵr University. They asked for our help, so I managed to get them some funding, and we fully restored this pond, and I'm looking forward to going back this spring to see what species are coming in and monitoring it for the long term. And this is another variety of habitat management. So this is mainly me up in the top corner. This is what I do all winter. If you're trying to find me, I'm usually in a pond somewhere. Or we're out with contractors clearing crashula from Penna-Hemblast Quarry up on Holcombe Mountain, engaging with students. I love getting students out, and you know, they're doing environmental courses, and yeah, getting them out and seeing this is what we do, this is what we need to do to save our environment. And I always finish on this slide. This slide I inherited from a colleague who retired quite a few years ago, and when it's been a long winter and I'm really, really tired and I'm in the pond and I'm cold, this is what I think about. And at the bottom, the male says, I know the family pond is here somewhere, and the female says, perhaps we should come again and try next year, and it's my job to make sure that doesn't happen. Yeah, the key with moving forward is managing, installing and enhancing these habitats for the future, because we are in a changing world, and that's what I continue to do. Thank you very much.